Welcome back to Simbright Fashion Academy YouTube channel for another interesting tutorial. In this class, I'll be showing you how to create this sweetheart yoke neckline with pleated details, as you can see right there. And it has a mandarin collar on top of it as well. And then we have an elastic casing on the waistline. So if this is what you want to learn, please stay tuned to the end of this tutorial. So I've placed my fabric on fold. So this is a chiffon fabric, and as you see, it's wobbling too much, so you need to place it in a way that it will be stable for you. So I folded this fabric and I'm cutting the front separately, and the back you also cut the back separately. But the purpose of this tutorial is to show you how to get that front neckline, the front upper bodies. So I folded it in a way that from here to here I'll be able to have my bust circumference divided by 4, and still I have my seam allowance to stitch it. So from here where I folded, my bust is 40 divided by 4 is 10, plus I'm going to add 1.5 inch to 10 inches. That will give me 11.5. I will use half to sew the placket on the center front, and I'll use 1 inch to sew the side seam. So I'm going to reduce my fabric a little more because I don't want to waste this fabric. So I'm going to reduce it a little more. So from here to here I will be having 11.5 and a little less. So I have 13 inches. It's okay. So I'm going to make my border line to begin this tutorial. This is my border line. So I'm going to take the measurement of my neckline. So my shoulder is 15 divided by 2 is 7.5. I'll be adding 1 inch. This 1 inch I'll use half to sew the placket and the front, and half to sew the sleeve. Then I'll place my tape and take my chest line. My chest line is 9 inches. My bust point line is 10.5, but I'll add half an inch for sewing to it. So this is what we want to take for the yoke. What we are cutting here is the yoke part of this dress. So now on this chest line I'll place my bust circumference divided by 2, and transferring my shoulder here 7.5. I'm going to transfer it here plus the 1 inch I added right here, that is 8.5. So I'll just come here and place 8.5. So I'll go ahead and rule a straight line. So like I said, this fabric is actually wobbling, so you really need to be very careful while working with it. So I'm creating my armhole, as you know, and here I have 9 inches. So I'm going to step down by 1 inch for my shoulder slant. Then my neckline, which I'm working with here, is 2.5. So by the time I sew it, I will have 3 inches. So please make sure you mark 2.5. If you take 3 inches, you will be having 3.5 after sewing. So if you want the turtle neckline on your neckline, you can take from here 2.5. So once you sew half an inch, you have the 3 inches. So I'll also mark 2.5 right here. So it depends on what your natural neckline is. So I've marked out the neckline right now, and I'll place my tape, my pattern ruler, to the shoulder drop, and I'm going to mark my shoulder drop. So the next thing we want to do is to get the midpoint for the armhole. So for the armhole, from here to here, my midpoint is 4 inches. I'll mark the 4 inches, and on my chest line I'll mark my bust 10 plus 1.5, which I added for plackets, and for seam allowance, that is 11.5. So I'll mark that 11.5 on the bust area too. So now we are going to make the sweethearts neckline, but let us create the sleeve first. So in creating the sleeve, so now I'm going to create the armhole. I'll go in by 0.75. So I'll connect that to the shoulder drop, and I'm going to connect this to the armhole, to the chest line. So now I'm going to cut what I have right here. So this is the neckline. So I'm adding 1/2 inch from this shoulder slant. I'll add 1/2 inch for sewing. I've already added my allowance here, so I won't add any one again. Then I'll come over here and cut this. So this is the yoke. So now about the yoke, we have the yoke going in this way. From this point, we'll have it go into this part. So now we are going to create that yoke right now. So I'll just create it the way I have it on the thumbnail there. So this is the, I'll just create it. I'll come down from from the shoulder here by 7.5. So that will be the height of the yoke, 7.5. So I just use my free hand to make this yoke first before I cut. So on this apex, I'll take it into the armhole. So that will serve as the yoke. So I'll cut it from here now. So this is what we have on the yoke. So I'm going to open up the center front. Remember, we've already added our seam allowance. So I've separated the center front now. So I'm going to measure what I have from here to for my placket. So here I have 8 inches. So this 8 inches I have here, I'm going to cut a placket for it, and this placket will have it stitched on this for the button before we go ahead to the down piece. So I'm just trying to get a good part of this fabric that will not wobble much. So I'll fold my plackets for the 2 of them. It's going to be 2 button plackets. So from here to here is 8 inches. I'll just make it 9 inches. Okay, and the width of this placket, it will be on fold. I did it at 1 inch, but I'm going to cut it at 3 inches for each. So by the time I sew 1/2 inch on both sides, I have 2 inches. So I'm going to open up. So one of the plackets will be for this and the other for that. So I'll just go over to my ironing table now. I will iron in this and this for the placket. But another way I do that, I'll use one to show you how I do that. So before you separate this, please make sure you have your mark for the front and for the back. So these are the back. So I will pick up this. This is my back. I'll bring in my placket. So this back piece, I'm going to sew at a straight stitch. You can see the back piece I'll sew at the straight stitch, then I'll bring it back this way and top stitch back here at 0.5. So that is another easy method, so we can have that placket. So let us sew now. So this is the back pattern piece where I marked, as you can see, and this is the front. So this is the plackets for the button. So we are going to pick it up this way, okay, and so so remember I added an extra 1 inch, so that extra 1 inch you have to push it a little this way. So I'm just using a contrasting thread to sew this to demonstrate to you how to go about this placket. So when making yours, please ensure you use the right thread. So I've stitched at 0.5 right now. Once I'm done stitching that part, this is what I'm going to do. I'll open up what I have on that and I'm going to iron it down. So make sure you iron it down this way, then fold in 0.5 and top stitch. So you need to iron, please ensure you iron. So I'll top stitch very closely to where we had the initial seam line. So I'll just go ahead and top stitch at 0.5. So you have to be very careful so you don't have error on your placket. So you can see the placket right now. So by the time I give it a good press, it lays nice and flat for me. So I'll just go ahead and trim off this excess that I raised up. So it's better you have an excess and you have a shortage. So this is what our placket looks like at the end of the day. So if you turn it to the wrong side, this is what you have at the wrong side, and this is the yoke part. So I'll just go ahead and do this to the yoke part to form or continue the yoke. So I'll repeat this same process for the other part and we proceed. Right, so now we are done with the both yoke. So this is the yoke. So what I'm going to do now, the buttons are going to be placed right here. So I'll just place it on top of each other like this, and I'll secure with my pin. I'll secure with my pin this way, that way. Okay. So that is it. Once you are done securing with your pin, you just cut off the excess to form that yoke. So now we are going to create the down part of it. So for the down part of it, note that we started this at our bust point. So I'm going to take it to the waistline right now. So for the down part of this dress, your waist circumference has to be divided by 2. So whatever your waist circumference is, divide by 2. So the waist circumference I'm working with right here is 36, and 36 divided by 2 will give me 18 inches. So because I'm going to gather my 18 inches into my, sorry, I'm talking about my bust, sorry about that. This is the bust area. We are going to gather this into the bust area. So the bust is 40 divided by 2. I'm working with bust. 40 divided by 2 is 20. So I'm going to do 20 times 2. So if I do 20 by 2, I'll be having 40 inches, okay? 20 by times 2, I'll have 40 inches. So whatever your bust is, divide it by 2 and times it by 2 again. So now I have 40 inches. So the fabric I'm going to cut now, for this I'm going to measure out my fabric at length 40. Then I'll add 2 inches for side seam. So this is length 40 plus 2 inches, that is 42. So I'm going to cut a length of 42, and I'm going to continue from the waistline. But now I'm going to take that measurement not from the bust point. Now my whole waistline, shoulder to waistline, is 17. Can you see that? So I'm going to count, add 1 inch for sewing allowance, sewing half an inch here and sewing half an inch on the down part. So whatever your waist is, divide it by your shoulder to waist is, just add 1 inch. My shoulder to waist is 17, I added 1 inch. So from this I'll count 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10, because I'm going to sew half an inch. So the tip of this is from here to here, aligning to this point, is 10 inches. Then I'll add half an inch to sew, that is 10.5. So the fabric I'm going to cut now, the length is going to be 42 by 10.5. So let me quickly cut that. So I've cut out the fabric 10.5. I made it 11 inches. Okay. So I don't have any shortage. I made it 11 inches, and the length from this point, so the length from here to here is the 42 inches. So I'll go ahead now on my machine. I'm going to gather, and I'll bring it back, gather it back to 20. Okay, so you can even multiply this by 2.5, that is 50 inches. If you really need more gathers, I could have even multiplied it by 50 inches, so the gathers will be much. Okay, please multiply by 50 inches. So I might just cut out another fabric and make it more fuller, or you can even multiply by 3, which is 60 inches, to make it more fuller. So you can see I have to multiply by 2.5. So I kept it on fold, and I'm having 28 inches here. So when you open it, you have more than 50 inches. Okay, so that's the only way to gather well for you. So I'll go over and gather it now. So I first gathered what I have on the upper parts, but we'll still gather the lower piece, because this lower piece will go to the we are going to have it on the part of the waistline. So this is my gathers. So I'll just ease it off a little, so I'll be able to have it at exactly 20 inches. So I'll keep easing it till I get 20 inches of length, because we are going to place our yoke on top of it to sew. All right, people, so you can see my gathers right now. So I've already gathered this at 20 inches. Can you see? So now I'm going to place my yoke on top of it, so I'll be able to cut out the the yoke line. So this is how I'm going to place my yoke. So this is it, the yoke. I'm going to place the yoke this way. I want you to watch what I'm doing right here. So make sure you centralize it. Can you see? It has to cover the yoke line, the tip of the yoke, that is this edge, has to align with 0.5 with this edge. That is the main part of this tutorial. So you can see how I placed it. So make sure you have this and at the center of the gathers. So this can actually be tricky if you are not careful. So once I've gotten it this way and I've placed it the way it should be, I'll now go ahead and do what? And cut the shape of that yoke. we are going to gather it again, so not to worry about the cutting. We gathered so we'll be able to have the cuts. Can you see? So I've taken off this one that we gathered, so now I'm going to gather it again. Can you see? Can you see? So this is the center line. So this center line now, make sure you take note of it. So I'll be using my pin to hold on to it. So I spread this part and I'm going to run my gather stitches, or I might even pleat into the yoke. I would prefer to use my pleating method. So once you have gotten it, the center front, so we are going to bring back the yoke, and the yoke, we are going to sew the yoke from the center the way you know how you sew your yoke. I'll just secure it with my pin, and I will gather everything I have here into this part. So but if you look at the thumbnail, we have a pleating that is made on the yoke before sewing. So I'll set this down part aside right now. So I'm going to cut my fabric. I'm going to cut the fabric that we are going to use to pleat into this yoke line. So I'll measure what I have from here to the end of the yoke. So here I have 12. So I'm going to multiply 12 by 3. That will give us 36. So this is my fabric, and I'm going to measure this fabric, placing it on fold, and measure 36 in length. So this fold, it depends on the width you want your pleating to be. So I just want my pleating at 1.5, so I'll measure 2 inches. So I'll measure 2 inches, and that is what I'm going to sew. So I'm cutting 2 inches on fold of 36 length. So from here to here, I have 36. So I'll measure 36 and cut. So I've cut them on fold now, okay, and I have 2 pieces of it. So what I need there is 2 pieces, because I will pleat this on one part of the yoke, on one part, and pleat the other. So I'll set this one aside, and I'll go over to the machine now. This is how I'm going to pleat it. I have it on fold. Together with this, I'm going to sew from center front this way. I'll sew from center front this way. I'll pleat everything I have in this way. I'll use my hands to pleat it upwards. Can you see? I'm pleating it upwards. So let me do that. So this is what I have when I pleated. Like I said, I pleated it up. As you can see right here, from the center front, I followed the yoke. So once you have gotten your pleats exactly the way it should be, whatever excess you have, just cut it off. So I have an excess here. I'll just cut it off following the neckline. I'll just do that neatly. So I'll go over to this part right now. I'm going to sew from this part on top of it this way. Then I'll show you how to sew in the down piece. So I'm done ironing. Ironing it. I pleated and ironed. So this is the excess I told you. You can cut off. So once you cut off, that is where we are going to attach the sleeve line. So this is it, and the pleatings are there for us. So the next thing we want to do now is to sew this to this by pleating everything we have right here. We are going to pleat it from the center front. So this is the center front, and I'm going to lay it this way. So I'll go over to the machine now. I'll start pleating. I'm going to pleat it this way. I'll use my hand to pleat everything in. I use my hand and pleat everything I have right here inside this, following this line. So it's time for us to start pleating. So note that this part is the center from where we pinned, and I'm going to drop my presser foot following the lines. Okay, so make sure you follow the lines. So I'm seeing through it. It's a chiffon fabric, so I'm seeing through it, and I'll keep pleating. But if you can gather this part separately, that will be okay too. So I just feel like gathering so I will gather everything I have right here. So whichever method you want to use to gather, if you want to gather using your hands, you want to gather using your gathering foot, just go ahead and gather that part. So I'm using my hands to pick my gathers, and I'm doing this slowly and gently. So after gathering, we can now trim off. Alright, so you can see what I have on my yoke line, and I'm done gathering everything into it. So I just go ahead and take off that center front pin. So we will now go and serge with these parts. Okay, so this is what it looks like at the end of the day. So we have this going up this way and this going up this way. So these parts right now, the down parts, I'm going to do what? Gather what I have on the down part. So what I have on the down part will be gathered into the waistlines. I'll come over to the down piece now. So for the down piece, I also got myself the down parts on a straight course this way. So what I have here is my waist measurement, in fact 1 yard, or exactly what I used to gather in here. Okay, so I'll now go ahead and I will sew from end to end. I'm going to sew from end to end at 0.5 inch, and then we'll create a rope casing for it. So now I've already created my elastic casing at 1 inch, as you can see. So I stitched everything right here. Okay, so you can decide to create your casing at the front, you can decide to make it at the back. So if you are making it at the back, that means you'll be using it to cover the stitches of the upper and the lower piece. So I'll just go over to my machine now, and I will lay the seam line below, and I'm going to sew this way and turn it again, tuck it in this way. That will serve as my elastic casing. So I'll have the stitches at this point, and I'll pass my rope right into this point. Okay, so whatever I do for the front, that is what I will do after joining the back piece of this on the shoulder line. Then I create the whole casing. Then at the center front, I'll open it up to pass my rope. So this is the down part and the upper part, and this is the casing. So like I said, I'll just place it right this way. The first one, I'll place it right this way, and I'll drop my presser foot. So I'll just sew in a straight course. So this is the casing we are creating for this elastic. So by the time we make our rope and pass our rope, the rope line will drag the gathers to give that effect that you have right there on the waistline. So I'll sew to the end right now. So I'm done sewing the the first part of the casing. So I will fold it in once again and use it to cover what I have this way. Okay, so that is where I'm going to pass either my rope or my elastic. So whichever casing or whichever thing I want to use to create the gathers on the casing. So I'm going to sew and cover up the casing. So the back is not a problem. The back is a plain back. You can add a yoke to it at the back. Is a plain back. So I'll sew, cover it up to the end. So I've created the casing, as you can see, and this casing now, that is what I used to cover the back. You can see. So this is what it looks like at the front. So by the time you have joined the back and created this whole casing, so I'll come in with my elastic. I would like to use elastic to create or to make these gathers. Okay, you can still use a rope for it. So if I'm using elastic, I'll measure my waist divide by 2, because that is my waistline, 18. Then I'll go ahead and use my safety pin to pass my casing. So I'm going to start from one end of it this way. I'll pass my casing. So if you're passing your rope, it's the same process. So by the time I pass from beginning to the end, as I'm passing now, I will stitch this part of the rope so it does not flip in, of the elastic so it does not. So I'll go over to stitch this. I'll hold down this now. So right now I'm done passing it, and you can see what I have right there. So I have that gathered effects that we have right there on the dress. So people, that's how we come to the end of this tutorial. So if you are new to this channel, please kindly subscribe, turn on your notification bell to receive videos like this every day. Like this video, share to family and friends, drop your comment on the comment section and your suggestions as well. Thank you for coming. See you in the next class. Bye.